Hi, boys and girls. Miss Austin is here with you, and we are going to be taking a look today at fractions. So this is a brand new SE for us, something you have not seen before yet in second grade. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing with this SE. So our student expectation, our SE, we're going to look at what happens when we partition or cut objects into equal parts. And we're going to name those parts. We have halves, fourths, and eighths. We're going to use words and numbers today. We are going to talk about how the more fractional parts you have, the smaller they are. And the fewer parts you have, the bigger they are. And we are also going to look at examples and non-examples of halves, fourths, and eighths. So please stop the video for a second, grab yourself a notebook and a pencil or something to write with, because you will be taking some notes towards the end of our lesson. Okay. Let's get right into it. Oops. Okay, so here we have some different things that are cut up into pieces. That's all that a fraction is. A fraction is when you have an entire thing and you cut it up into small pieces. So let's take a look at the orange. The orange has two pieces. This orange is cut into halves. Oh, and Miss Austin's thing just doesn't like me today. Let's draw a line. So our orange is called halves. Now this tomato has 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. Since it has 4 pieces, we are going to call this one fourths. Okay, see however many pieces you have, that decides the name of your fraction. In this apple, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 pieces, so this fraction would be called eighths. Okay, so let's take a look at the portions in these pizzas. Over here, this pizza is a whole. The fraction name is whole, and it has 1 portion or 1 piece. If you got to eat an entire pizza, look at all of this pizza you would eat. If I know my kids pretty well, most of y'all will be taking off those olives and the big old tomato piece in the middle. But you would eat the whole pizza. That's a lot of pizza. Now, let's say you got to eat half the pizza. There's 2 parts, 2 portions in this pizza. So if you're eating half the pizza, you're only eating 1/2 of it, which is still a lot of pizza, but not as much as an entire pizza. So if we have 1 piece, it's a giant piece. When we have 2 pieces, it's still a pretty big piece, but it's not as big as having just 1 piece. And on our last pizza, we have cut this one into 4 portions or 4 parts, and that makes fourths. Now notice, when we're getting into more pieces, 4 pieces, those pieces are getting smaller. The more pieces you have, the smaller they are. The less pieces you have, like just 1 piece, the bigger they are. They become giant pieces. So it's an important lesson to remember with fractions. Anytime you cut something up into smaller pieces, or anytime you cut a fraction up into more pieces, the size of those pieces are getting smaller. If you have brothers and sisters or cousins that you share with often, you understand this. If you have to share a candy bar with 5 people, you're getting a little bitty piece. But if you get to have a candy bar all to yourself, you're getting a lot of candy bar. So just remember that when you're working on these fraction ideas. So we're going to take some of these shapes right here, and we're going to practice cutting them in half. So what I'm going to do is just spread these little shapes out first. And my apologies, you can probably hear my boys playing in the background and not even in the same room as me, but they're still loud. Okay, so something that's important to remember, whenever you are cutting these fractions in half, you want to make sure that those halves are the same size and shape. This is a good lesson to remember also for when you are sharing things. You want to make sure that whatever you're sharing is equal. Fractions have to be equal. This piece is the same as this piece over here. You do not want a fraction piece that's not equal. That is not going to work. They have to be equal pieces. So just do your best at showing us equal pieces. I could even use this one down here. Now, if I take this line, and I try to cut this in half, would that work? Those pieces don't look the same. That's not going to work. I could use that bar over here. I could use it to cut this one in half. That makes that one equal. There's another equal one. Okay, so remember, anytime you are cutting fractions into pieces, you have to make sure those pieces are equal. Okay, we're going to try a couple more, but this time we want to put them into 4 equal pieces. Now, some of these are not going to work. They just will not work. I'm going to pull out some that will work. We can cut these shapes into 4 equal pieces. But the triangles and the trapezoid, we're not going to get those as equal pieces. Okay, that one looks like it's 4 pieces. Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't think that line worked for me. Let me try a different one. Do those pieces all look the same? No, you know what? This guy's going back. He's not going to work. Okay, so I think you guys are kind of getting the point. I'm going to go a little faster and just draw my lines out. I know they're not perfect. Y'all know how this works. Anytime we're in the classroom and we're using those pens, they look a little crazy, but that's okay. You can see that I intended all the pieces to be the same size and the same shape. so that they are in 4 equal pieces. Very important when we're talking about fractions. Now here we're going to take a look at some of them and we're going to cut them into 8 pieces. And I'm just going to focus you on a couple of these. So you have lots of work to do today. Okay, so if I want to cut it into 8 pieces, there I have 2 pieces. I have 4 pieces. I'll do some more lines. That gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. Anytime I'm doing a circle, I always think about pizza. Here's my unperfect 8 pieces. All right, so some examples for us of 8 equal pieces. Now, let's just take a look at this and see what is our order for looking at what's the smallest piece that we have all the way to the biggest piece. Well, looking at these, I want to find the smallest. Oh, yeah. The smallest pieces are these 8s. Look at how small they are. And which one is the big? Oh, halves. This one's definitely the biggest. It's going to go down here for largest. That means the 4th is just kind of in the middle. What do you notice about the size of each part? When I have small parts, I have a lot of them. There's 8. When I have medium parts, I have less than the small one. When I have big parts, I only get 2 parts. So the bigger the parts, the fewer there are. The smaller the parts, the more there are. So the more pieces I have, the smaller they are, and the less pieces I have, the bigger they are. Okay, so the more fractional parts are used to make a whole, the more I have, the smaller those parts are. My word doesn't want to stay there. The more pieces I have, the smaller they are, and the less pieces I have, the larger they are. And I don't know why those words don't want to stay there, but I promise you those are true. If I have more pieces, the smaller they are. The less pieces I have, the larger they are. Okay, so let's take a look at some things that are examples of half. Look at this picture. That's a half. Oh, this one only has one little piece shaded. That's not a half. Here we have half an apple, half a clock. What else is a half? Oh, look, oranges are in half. Look at these eggs. Oh, I see lots of halves. Look at this cup. Halfway filled with orange juice. I think that's all I see. So let's just take a look at why these are 1/2. Half of the square is colored in. Half of the pentagon is colored in. Half of the cup is filled. The hour is 11:30. Half of oranges, half of apple, and half of the entire carton of eggs. Now the ones that are not so much. This is cut into 4 pieces and only 1 is shaded. That's 1/4. The same thing here. 1/4 of the cookie is going to be missing. Here we have 4 pieces. Again, oh my gosh, there's a lot of 4 pieces on here. There's 8 pieces. This is a whole dollar, not half of it. This is 15 minutes, not 30 minutes, which is half an hour. Oh yes, lots of those. Okay, I think we're understanding. Now we're going to look at examples that are 4ths. Oh, we found some already before. Here's a picture of those 4ths. This is a 4th. Oh, look at all these great examples of a fourth colored in. Oh, the cookie, don't forget the cookie, a fourth of that cookie's been cut off. Look at this triangle. Okay, so all of these examples down here are not examples of fourth. We could put all of these in the not 1/4 example. We're going to look at some things that are eighths. So anytime that you have something that is cut into 8 pieces, that is what we're going to be using as an example to show eighths. So here I have a shape. I'm going to, whoa, the drawing's not so great. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to cut this into 8 equal pieces. It's just not working out that well. I made the same shape again. And I wanted to cut this one. Well, the first thing I could do, let's just cut into something that's completely not related to 8 pieces. They're just fourths, right? That's not an example of an eighth. Okay, so that takes us to the end. Let's go to our notebook now, boys and girls. And here we're going to take some notes over what we've just learned. These notes are going to be very helpful whenever you are working on your assignment. So please write with me. I'm going to make a chart at the top of my paper. First part is going to be called fraction. Then I'm going to show you examples and non-examples. So please pause the video for a second so you can get your chart set up. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is going to be called a whole. The way we write a whole as a number is just simply with the number 1. What does this fraction mean? Well, it means that you have 1 part. There's only 1 part. I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to draw some shapes. I'm going to draw a circle and a square, maybe a triangle. I'm going to switch colors, which you don't have to do, but just so you can see it very, very clearly, I'm going to color in the whole piece. It is not cut up into any smaller pieces at all. It's the whole thing, which is where its name comes from. It's a whole. These wholes are pretty simple because there's only one way to call it. Whole. 1. That's it. Now, if I wanted to count all these holes together, I have 1, 2, 3 holes. There's 3 of them. I want to give you a non-example of a hole. Any shape that's cut. Anything that has more than one piece is a non-example of a hole. So go ahead, pause the video if you need to catch up, and make sure your notes are written down. Okay, so let's look at our next fraction that we have. I'm going to draw a dividing line. And our next fraction is going to be called a half, or if you have 2 of them, or more than 2, I should say, more than 1, halves. Either word is correct. If you're only talking about 1 piece out of 2, that's a half. If you're talking about more than 1 piece, we call them halves. It's just the plural word. To show this fraction, we use the number 1/2. What does this mean? This means that there are 2 parts in a whole. There's 2 parts in the whole thing. If I have a cupcake and I cut it in half, those are halves. You have 2 whole parts to make the whole cupcake. So let's show some examples of our halves. I'm going to start by drawing some more shapes. Then I'm going to cut them. In half. You can do this with your pencil. I'm going to use a color so you guys can see clearly. I'm going to color in just one of those halves. And if you do want to grab a crayon and do this, that's absolutely fine. Remember, at any time you can pause this video so you may work along. So this is 1/2. 1/2 is colored in. Again, you have 1/2. 1/2. I could write it as a number. Or I could write it as words. A non-example would be something that's not shared equally, or something that is cut into more than 2 pieces. Go ahead and pause the video. You have a chance to catch up on your notes. Hey guys, the next one we're going to look at is going to be our fourths. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to write that. If you have only 1 piece, we call that a fourth. If you have more, we would call that fourths. The way we write that is a number over 4. And what does it mean? It means that there's 4 parts in a whole. 4 parts in a whole. Okay, we're going to give you some examples, and there's going to be some special way I'm writing these examples. So I'm going to make them a little larger just to help you see clearly. Let's do this one. Let's do the circle. How about let's do a rectangle. And we'll try to do that triangle. So the first thing that you want to do is cut your shapes into 4 equal pieces. Remember, that's something that's very important when it comes to fractions. The pieces have to be the same size. I know that we are just working on this in our notebook, so it can be kind of difficult to make sure they're perfect. I'm going to show you the little trick for the triangle. The trick is to make a triangle in the middle of it. Oops. Forgot to make mine long. There we go. Okay. I'm going to color these in really special right now. On this first one, coloring in 2 pieces. I'm going to color in 1 piece down here. I'm going to color in 3 pieces right here. And on my circle, I'm going to color in I'm coloring the whole thing. Go ahead and catch up to me, please. Remember, you can pause the video if you need to. Okay, so let's talk about the names of these fractions. On this first picture, it's not only called fourths. There's a special number of them colored in. 1, 2. So I'm going to call this one 2 fourths. 2 fourths. Another way to write that is going to be 2 over 4. That's 2 fourths. I'm going to go to this circle over here. Well, I see that it is cut into fourths. How many pieces do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 4 fourths. That would be written as 4 over 4. Or you could even call it 1. This is one whole. The whole thing is colored in. Right over here, only 1 piece is colored in, so that's 1 fourth. Notice I stuck with fourth with no S because there's only 1. It's singular. And that would be written as 1 over 4. And the last one, our triangle, well, we have 3 pieces, so that makes 3 fourths, or 3 over 4. For a non-example, that's a non-example of fourths. Yes, there's 4 pieces, but they're not equal. Or anything that doesn't show me 4 pieces. Another non-example. All right, guys, finished catching up. Pause the video if you need to. And we're going to go on to our last one. The last one is the 8th, 4 eighths. And this is written as 1/8. And it just simply means that we have 8 parts in a whole. To give us some examples, remember you can pause the video at any time so you can catch up on pictures or finish your notes. And then my last one, I'm going to show some muffin tins. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to catch up. Okay, so let's look at these 8s. First of all, most importantly, they're equal pieces. I'm looking at my first shape right over here. I know I have 8 pieces and there's 3 of them that are colored in. 3/8. To write that, 3/8. My circle down here, it's cut into 8 pieces. 4 of them are colored in. 4/8. Hey, I noticed something though. 4 is half of 8. So another way you could write that is 1/2. It is a half too. It's half of the circle. It's just a little GT work for you right there. I would write down 4/8. And then for my muffins, so we're gonna give it a little story. Miss Austin baked a tray of muffins. She ate 3. How many are left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/8 are left. Okay, and some non-examples. Well, first of all, if it doesn't have the right number, it's not an example of 8s. Or if it has the right number, but they're not equal, it's not an example of 8s. Okay, guys, so there are your notes. These notes are going to help you wonderfully for your assignment. Might even also attach a little image of this with your peak of the week so that you have this ready to go. Please go ahead and get to that assignment. Message your teacher if you have any questions about it. And we will see you here next week. So thank you so much, boys and girls, for joining us.